Hi everybody, Patrick here from EngineeringShock.com, ElectronicLessons.com, and PaintballProps.com. This is a video manual for our new 4x4 Keypad Matrix processor board set. The video will be broken down into three parts. Version 1, which we'll talk about in just a second. Version 2, and hookups. And in the hookup section we'll talk about how to hook up all the different peripherals to both the version 1 and version 2 boards. This version 1 board has three Arduino compatible outputs. Panic, PA, Tamper, TA, and Lock, LO. And it has internal EEPROM memory so that you can save the codes after power off. There are two ways of powering the board. There's a terminal block and a secondary 5mm jack. Again, we'll get to that in a little bit. You can activate a siren with the duress code. You can toggle a servo motor 90 degrees and back using the lock code, and there's also a relay option with the three terminal block output: common, normally closed, and normally open. We'll get to that a little bit later. If you're going to use the panic alarm, and you don't want to use the siren, you can use this to switch AC and high power devices. Again, we'll get to that a little bit later. So let's talk about the version 1 board. The first thing you're going to want to do when you plug it in, after everything's connected, what you'll notice is that when you plug it in, sorry about the wires here, I know that there's a lot of wire and a little picture, is you'll hear the servo motor glitch, and then it'll correct itself. So just listen. Glitch, correction. The servo motor comes with a bag of accessories, and what you'll do is you can take whatever accessory you want. There are screws to fasten them on. Place it wherever you'd like for the 0 degree state to be, and when you enter in the unlock code, that servo motor will rotate 90 degrees for about 5 seconds and then rotate back. So we've plugged it in, it's operational. We have to program in our panic code and our unlock code. And the code for that would be, typically for unlock, we have to enter in star number 11. For panic, star number 22. But if we do that right now, what happens? The red LED turns on and then turns off, which indicates that an incorrect code has been entered. So what I have to do is I have to unplug the unit. No power is reaching the unit. I have to take the included 2-pin header connector and short the GD pins, the GD pin and the PG pin. GD is ground and PG is program. So you take that 2-pin header, connect it on the board, and we'll plug it back in. That'll correct itself, corrects itself. So when you plug it in again, the servo glitches a little bit and then it corrects itself. So now what happens if we press star number 11? The red LED blinks, which means we're now in program mode. So I'm going to enter in a code of 1234 for our unlock code. And the red LED blinks again, telling me that the code has been accepted. So now if I enter in 1234, 90 degrees, and wait for it, back. So you can use whatever head you want for the servo motor and put it at any interval wherever you want on the board, fasten it with one of the included screws, and it will rotate 90 degrees. So now we have to enter in our panic code. So we're going to enter in star number 22, and that'll put us in program mode for the panic alarm. And you'll notice that the green LED flashed a few times, telling us we're now in panic alarm program mode. So let's do 5, 6, 7, 8. And the green LED flashes again, telling us that it's been programmed. So our servo code unlock is 1234. Our panic alarm is 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I'm actually going to turn this siren upside down because it's extremely loud. I'm going to enter in the panic code. But before I do that, you'll notice that while the siren is going off, the green LED flashes. When the green LED, you cannot stop the panic alarm until that green LED stops flashing. And once it stops flashing, you can press 1 to disable it, and that resets the system. but you can't do. I'll be pressing that one button several times while the LED is flashing, just to show you that you can't do anything until that green LED stops flashing. So let's enter in 5, 6, 7, 8. So the system reset. Yeah, hopefully you saw me tapping on one while that green LED was flashing. This is so that if you want to enter a panic code, that it actually gets the attention of somebody before you can actually disable it. In any case, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unplug it. You can leave that programming jumper on if you'd like. It doesn't matter. You can take it off. If you take it off, you can't program in a new code until you put that jumper back on. But in any case, if I plug it back in, again, what you'll notice is if I put in star number 11, nothing happens. It gives me an incorrect combination. The red LED just turns on and then turns off. So I can't program it in a new code right now because I don't have the jumper connected. But the EEPROM memory in the chip has saved the right code. There we go. So if I enter in the wrong combination, I get an incorrect combination indicator on the red LED. So, let's talk about the power supply options. For those of you who didn't pledge during the Kickstarter and still want to buy this from EngineeringShock.com when it goes up for sale, I'll be selling this unit with an AC adapter. And the AC adapter simply plugs in and it automatically powers up. However, if you don't want to use the AC adapter, you want to use an alternate power supply, you can use this input terminal block. Now you can't use both at the same time. The version 2 module, you can use 2 power supplies at the same time as a battery backup. But in the case where you want to use this terminal block, it's a screw terminal block. You can open the terminals by screwing them counterclockwise and tightening them by screwing clockwise. In any case, there's 2 pins, V+ and ground. In order to power this unit properly, you're going to need a 9-volt power supply capable of sourcing 700 milliamps or more. And that's because the siren itself, the siren takes a lot of power. The rest of the board doesn't take too much power. When the servo motor is going, it takes about, for a very short period of time when the servo is activated, it takes about 300 milliamps. The relay itself takes about 60 milliamps. So you need to properly power this, a 9-volt power supply capable of 700 milliamps or more. The adapter is rated for 9 volts at 1 amp, so it's a perfect power supply for this unit. So if you have, say you want to use 9-volt batteries, you can't use one 9-volt battery because one 9-volt battery will power the board, it'll power the servo, but if you turn on the siren, what's going to happen is it's going to cause the voltage on the battery to dip and it'll reset the device, and this is because the 9-volt battery cannot source enough current. However, if you put 3 9-volt batteries and good 9-volt batteries in series, that would work perfectly, and you can take that connector of that battery bank and use that terminal block. So, let's talk about the relay. The relay controls the siren. However, if I want to use the panic code to activate something else, let's say a lamp or another AC device or DC device, whatever you choose to use, what you have to do is you have to disconnect the siren, disconnect the SEN jumper. SEN stands for Siren Enable. And now it's perfectly safe to use this relay for another switching purpose. Now, it's literally just a magnetic switch, an electromagnetic switch, sorry. So if you're trying to switch power to something, place the power rail on the CO line, common, and place the other side of the power connector to your load to the common pin. And when the relay is activated, what happens is it connects those 2 pins internally, so you're applying power to a device. When the relay is off, the common pin connects to the normally closed pin, the NC pin. NC, normally closed, normally connected, whatever, common. So the common pin is always either connecting to the normally closed pin, the NC pin, or the normally open pin. You can just use it, it's like an on-off switch, like a light switch, connecting the common to either the normally open when the relay is active, or connecting to the normally closed when the relay is off. You have that option. The traces are very thick, and so that you can use up to about 50 watts. Now you'll notice that sorry about the focus, those are the traces. They're pretty thick. In any case, Now let's talk about the Arduino compatible outputs. The Arduino compatible outputs are right here. TA, tamper, PA, panic, and LO, lock. If you're going to interface with your Arduino, what you have to do is connect your the ground pin from your Arduino to the GD pin, which is the ground pin of the version 1 board. Then you can take either the TA, the PA, or the LO, either or, any of them, all three of them, and connect them to GPIO all pins on your Arduino. The tamper pin goes high when you enter in a incorrect combination and stays high until the LED turns on and then turns off. That line goes high and goes low again when the LED turns off. The panic line, it goes high, 5 volts, when the siren is turned on. When you turn the siren off, that line goes low. The LO, the lock, output goes high as long as the servo motor is turned to 90 degrees. And it stays high until it goes back to 0 degrees after about 5 seconds. So you get long enough signals, more than a second each, to basically tell your Arduino that an event has occurred, a panic alarm has been entered, an incorrect combination has been entered, a tamper, or that the unlock sequence has been entered, LO for lock. In any case, that is the version 1 board. It's very easy to use. I've showed you how to program it safely. Those codes will stay in the chip. We will talk about how to make all of these connections, including the keypad matrix itself. We'll talk about how to connect those to the board at the end of the video. Now let's talk about the version 2 board. This is the version 2 board. I've got a different keypad connected. I'll show you in just a second, but let me talk about the differences. There are, again, 2 different ways to power the unit. However, there are 2 diodes that protect the power supplies from one another, so you can use both of them at the same time. One is a battery backup, and the 5mm jack is the primary power supply. So you have the option of having a battery backup, although it doesn't really make too much of a difference because the processor holds the codes in internal EEPROM. Now the program jumper for this unit lies right here, labeled PG. If I want to enter into program mode, I have to use a 2-pin jumper to connect those 2 pins together. Now I can enter in the star number 11, star number 22 codes to reprogram the lock and duress codes. There are no Arduino compatible outputs here, but this unit talks to you. It talks you through the operation. We'll show you in just a second. There's a speaker connection labeled HP right on the right here. There's an empty 2-hole spot for LP. Ignore it. It's not used. The siren is plugged in right here. There's an S plus and S minus labeling. S plus is for the positive connection to the siren, which is red, and S minus is for the negative connection to the siren, which is black. There is an EN set of pins that you use a 2-pin jumper to enable the siren. If you don't want to use the siren, you take off that EN jumper, you disconnect the siren, and you can use, again, this 3-pin terminal block for the relay to use the relay to switch something else during panic mode. We talked about that more on version 1. We've got our servo connection right here, but we'll talk about the connections a bit more in the next section. Anyway, I've rambled on. Once you power it up for the first time, make sure that you have a 2-pin jumper connecting the PG pins. Let's power it on.
Enter combination.
So we powered it up. It says enter combination. Sorry for the mess of wires. Again, here's my speaker. It talks to me, my siren, my servo motor, my matrix keypad. This is the membrane version. It plugs directly into the board. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in. I've got my 2-pin jumper connected on the PG lines.
Enter combination.
When you plug it in, the servo glitches and then corrects itself to the 0 degree mark. I've just got the head on at any given spot. I can fasten it in. I can put it basically anywhere I want. It does come with screws, so you can mount it however you'd like. So now we have to enter into program mode. Star number 11 enters us into program mode for the unlock code, the servo code. Star number 22 brings us into the program mode for the panic alarm. So let's enter in a code of 1234 for the servo and 5678 for the siren. So we have to enter in to unlock program mode for the siren first. So star number 11.
Enter program mode. Enter combination. Code program.
So 1234.
Enter combination.
So let's enter into program mode for the siren.
Enter program mode. Enter combination. Code programmed. Enter combination.
So let's enter in an incorrect combination.
Incorrect combination. Enter combination.
Let's take our sweet time.
Timeout.
Okay, so if I enter in 1234, watch the servo.
Enter combination.
Let's enter in the panic alarm. Now, one thing about the panic alarm, when I enter in 5678, what will happen is that LED will blink for about 5 seconds. After that, I can turn it off. The minimum period of time that the siren will be activated for is 5 seconds. I can only disable it once that LED stops blinking. So watch the LED, and as soon as the LED stops blinking, I'm going to press 1, and that will disable it.
Enter combination.
So now I'm going to unplug it, remove the program jumper. I'm going to let the capacitors discharge, give it 10 seconds or so. Shouldn't take that long, but just for the sake of doing it. So let's plug it back in. Corrects itself.
Enter combination.
Just to show you that the EEPROM has saved the codes, I'm going to enter in 1234. So that is still saved into EEPROM memory. And let's try to enter back into program mode.
Incorrect combination. Enter combination.
So now with that program jumper taken off, I can't enter back into program modes, but I can still enter in the codes that we used. That was 1234, and this is 5678.
Enter combination.
So it's as simple as that. I find this board to be a little bit simpler, basically because it talks to you, tells you what mode you're in, what you should be doing, blah 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 blah. So let's talk about the hookups. The servo motor. There are two common rails on both boards. They're 3-pin, and they're labeled SIG for signal, 5 volts, and ground. SIG, 5 volts, and ground. The servo motor has 3 wires. Brown is ground, red is 5 volts, and orange is signal. So what you want to do in both cases is make sure that your orange goes in the signal side, your red in the 5 volt hole, and your brown in the ground hole. Simply plugs in just like that on both boards. Very easy to do. So now next let's talk about the siren. In both cases there is a siren enable jumper. In the case of the version 2 board, it's just labeled EN right here. If you want to enable the siren, you have to take a 2-pin jumper that will come with your set or kit, and you simply pop it on there. In the case of the V1 board, it's labeled SEN for siren enable. So I'm going to plug that in. As for the siren will come to you with a 2-pin connector that sits on top of the header pins, and there is a red wire and a black wire. In both cases, for both boards, there is a siren connector labeled S plus and S minus. S plus and S minus. S plus is where you'd connect the red side of the connector, on the bottom here, and on the bottom here. And the S- pin is where you'd place the black wire. So here, from this perspective, I've got red on the left, black on the right. Again, with this perspective, red on the left, black on the right. You have officially set up your servo motor and your siren at this point. Now let's talk about the speaker. The speaker only applies to the V2.0 board, and the speaker is simply a coil of wire. There is a red and a black wire, but it really doesn't matter. There's no orientation here. Just pop the speaker connector into the HP pins. This is the membrane keypad. It is the easiest to connect to both boards. In the case of the V2.0 board, this is your matrix connector. On the left, it's labeled R1, R2, R3, R4, and then C1, C2, C3, C4. If you haven't seen my matrix keypad video, I suggest you watch it. But in any case, what you have to do is from the front, this is the front of the keypad, connect the 8-bit connector to the 8-bit header on the board. Make sure it's solid, in place, should work with no issue. The V1.0 board is the exact same relative to that orientation. From the front, pop it on. Should pop right into place. This is the momentary matrix, and it doesn't plug into the board, but it connects wire to wire with the connector on the board from this perspective. So I just need wire connections that are included with the kits that include this specific keypad matrix to the board, or between the board and the keypad matrix itself. Now the pins are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 connects to R1, 8 connects to C4, and all of the pins in between. So let me hook one up and I'll show you. As you can see, I've got the gray on the left here connected to the left pin. Then purple, then blue, then green, then yellow, then orange, then red, and then lastly on the right, brown. Now, I mean, though it's obviously there's no need for a color code. Use whatever colors you have, just to show you that it's left pin to left pin, right pin to right pin, and every pin in between. So we're going to talk about our last keypad. I'm going to end this video. This is the numeric keypad. This is my personal favorite keypad. It comes with an 8-pin header soldered to the back, and you use pin connectors, such as these that would be included with the purchase, to connect to the back. Now, I've got a wiring diagram that will tell you how to connect this to the board. It's a little bit more complicated than what we've used so far, because the pinout isn't simply R1, 2, 3, 4, C1, 2, 3, 4. They're a little bit mixed up. So bear with me. The end of the video is just around the corner. I'm just going to show you the pin diagram, and I'm going to explain it.
You don't have to even look at those connections. Just try to hear me out here. On the matrix keypad on the right, you'll notice on the upper left, pin 1 is notated. So that upper left pin is pin 1, and the rightmost pin is pin 8. So from the left to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the columns on the bottom and the rows on the right, I have their pin numbers beside it. So for instance, C4 on the lower right is pin 1 on the matrix keypad, so the leftmost pin. Pin 2 is R1. Pin 3 is R2. Pin 4 is R3. And pin 5 is R4. C1 is pin 6. C2 is pin 7. And C3 is pin 8. So you want to make sure that you use those pin notations to connect between the board. So for instance, I want to connect R1 from the matrix keypad processor board, the leftmost pin on the processor board, to pin 2 on the matrix keypad. I want to connect C1 on the matrix keypad processor to pin 6 on the numeric keypad. Hopefully that makes sense. I have a connections table on the lower left, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. if you have purchased this or if you have pledged towards my Kickstarter, there will be a manual that will talk a little bit more about this. Not in a substantial detail, but a little bit more. And if you want to learn more about Matrix keypads and how they work, check out my channel, because one of my latest videos is a brief video talking about how Matrix keypad processors or Matrix keypads work. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this helpful.